Let me start with a simple question. Have you ever tried a marketing tactic, spent money on it, and walked away thinking, that didn't work? Most business owners have tried a lot of things over the years: ads, email, social media, and many have even tried direct mail once and moved on. Not because they didn't want it to work, but because the results weren't consistent. But here's what I've discovered after working with business owners for over 20 years and across dozens of industries. Marketing rarely fails because the tactic was wrong. It fails because there was no system behind it. And today I want to show you a simpler approach: how direct mail can be used as an automated system to bring in predictable leads and repeat customers without adding more work to your day. If you've ever wished your marketing felt more consistent, more reliable, and less dependent on constant effort, you'll want to stick with me. But real quick, before we dive in, if we haven't met yet, I'm Travis Lee. I work with business owners to build direct response marketing systems, especially using direct mail to generate leads, reactivate past customers, and create predictable revenue. And over the years, I've seen the same pattern repeated across industry after industry. The businesses that grow consistently aren't doing more marketing, they're using better systems. Now, before we go any further, let's address the elephant in the room. Every time I talk about direct mail, someone eventually says, isn't direct mail dead? In fact, if you listen to the marketing headlines over the last 20 years, direct mail has died more times than Elvis. There's even a famous Mark Twain quote that applies here: the reports of my death are greatly exaggerated. While the Postal Service has evolved, will they continue to Saturday delivery, the continued move to cluster boxes versus door to door delivery, and some other behind the scenes stuff that really doesn't affect you or I? The truth is, the mailbox itself hasn't gone anywhere. And more importantly, the opportunity inside hasn't gone anywhere either. So before we go any further, let's look at some facts about direct mail. 73% of US consumers prefer direct mail for brand communications because it allows them to read the information at their own convenience. 80% of people say they look forward to seeing what's in their mailbox. Do you look forward to seeing what's in your inbox? Direct mail has an average shelf life of 17 days compared to just 2 seconds for email. 98% of people retrieve their mail every day, 77% read it and sort it the same day, and 82% of direct mail is read for a minute or longer. And finally, 59% of business owners prefer printed resources to online resources. Now, this isn't to say you shouldn't be in the online world. I'm in the online world. I have email, I have LinkedIn, I have Facebook, we run ads. But if you're only living in the online world, you're doing yourself a disservice. You're missing out on a huge segment of the population who prefer offline communication. As my mentor Dan Kennedy says, a common denominator for businesses that are struggling or failing is the absence of a direct mail system that works and steadily investing in it. That's the key: finding what works and steadily investing in it. You've got to test, you've got to tweak, you've got to try different things. I have one client we've been mailing for about 6 years now, consistently every single day. We must be on version 35 of his sales letter, tracking, measuring, testing, doing different things to make sure it works, squeezing out every little bit of response that we can. So here's the big idea, and here's what I want you to get out of this presentation. Every business can find and needs to find an automated approach to their direct mail advertising. And really, this goes for any kind of advertising. And when I say automate, all I mean is you don't do it. So today, I'm going to show you how my best and most profitable clients are using direct mail as an automated system that brings them a predictable number of leads and sales each month. So the first place we have to start is the mailing list. It all starts with the audience. Everything you do from the time you pick your audience until you put something in the mail is dictated on who you are mailing. And in direct mail, I would say at least 50% of the battle is done in choosing the right list. In fact, Bob Stone, who wrote Successful Direct Marketing Methods, the literal textbook on direct marketing says that maximizing direct mail success depends first upon the list you use, second upon the offer you make, and third upon the copy and creative you use. So we have to start with our audience in mind and then work forward from there. So your challenge is to find a mailing list that can be replenished on a daily, weekly, monthly, or quarterly basis. And I'll give you some examples of how that can look. One example of a list that is constantly being replenished is a new mover list. The name says it all. This is a great trigger point for a lot of different businesses: dentists, family practitioners, eye doctors, hair salons, day spas, gyms, daycares, HVAC, pest control, plumbing, pool services, remodeling, basically home services of all kind, furniture retailers, landscape. This list is ideal for these kinds of businesses. A life event happened, and now they are far more likely to need these kinds of services. Here's the kind of things I'm talking about. 66% of new home buyers will spend $15,000 or more on their new home in the first 6 months. The big ones include kitchen and bath remodels, fencing and landscaping, patios and decks, painting and interior and exterior. 68% change their primary care provider. So if you're a primary MD, you should be getting a list of new movers. 59% change their insurance agent. 41% change their dentist. So if you're in any of those three, you should absolutely be testing one of these. 95% plan on buying new furniture, 70% bedding or linens. So again, if you're in those industries, 61% are going to buy or replace flooring. So if you're on either of these two lists, you should be testing a new mover mail campaign. So what does a new mover mail campaign look like? Here's an example for a dentist. We're able to get a list of new movers in the dentist service area. And what's great about these lists is we can still layer on some other demographic data: home value, household income, and others. So I don't have to target all new movers. I get to be selective in who I want to target, because not all new movers are created equal. And by the way, these are all lists that we can provide to you. You should know how to contact me, but if any of these spark your interest, let me know. And if we look at our chart from the last slide, we know that 41% of new movers change dentists. So as you see here, we've got a number 10 envelope with the big billboard on it, essentially, that says, "Welcome to the neighborhood. Get a full cleaning, x-ray, and exam for just $99. Special new neighbor savings of $251. See inside for details." And if you were to read this letter, it's not world beating copy. It's pretty simple, actually. And really, when you're doing direct mail, you only have three things you have to worry about. You have your audience, you have your offer, and then you have the creative. Just like Bob Stone said a couple of slides back, those are the only three areas we can really mess around with. So we're not trying to recreate the wheel here. We want to put a good offer in front of an audience that we know has a higher likelihood of responding than the average Joe home buyer out there or Joe homeowner out there. Here's another one for an auto repair shop. Again, we're not recreating the wheel here. Welcome to the neighborhood. Enjoy a free oil change on us. Special new neighbor offer worth over $79.97. Look familiar, right? So again, we're not trying to be over the top creative here. We have a process that we know works, so let's replicate that over as many different businesses as we can. What works for you? That's what you want to be looking at here. And here's one more final new mover mailer. This is for a client of mine named Rob Pell. He's in Grants Pass, Oregon. He has a natural food store, supplements, a small restaurant in the back. And again, same idea. We send a letter inviting them into the store. We give them an irresistible offer, a coupon, dollar off. And in Rob's case, we use these fake express envelopes, which always have a great response rate. Again, nothing big with the letter, a simple, "Hey, welcome to the neighborhood. Here's our offer. Here's how to redeem it." Very simple, very straightforward, but always gets great response for Rob. All right, we talked about new movers as a life event that could be a trigger point for someone to be more apt to take your offer. But those aren't the only ones out there. For example, we can get lists of newlyweds. We can get lists of recently divorced. We can get lists of a recent birth of a child. We can get lists of birthdays. These are especially important for the milestone ones 30, 40, 50, 60. We can do anniversaries. Same thing. The milestones are important. We can do recent empty nesters. We can target households with a child nearing high school graduation. And we can even target recent college graduates. So if any of those types of consumers are someone who would be more apt to respond to your offer, this would be a great place to start. For example, if you sell insurance and investment products, newlyweds, birth of a child, those would all be great times to target, are great times to target that audience. Recent empty nesters may be great for a realtor, right? It's time to downsize. The kids just moved out. All those things all of those are life events that we can target and then send them a message in the hope that they're more likely to respond to us because of what's going on in their life. So here's just a couple examples. We love running these birthday cards. We go happy birthday to first name, check out your free birthday gift inside. And again, this is for another auto repair shop. So every month we can get a list of the people who are born in, say, February, mail them a piece in February, and then get a response because we're timing that life event. And here's the inside of what that letter would look like. We would like to celebrate your birthday with you. Here's a gift certificate. What's the catch? Again, we have the audience. The offer is a birthday free oil change. And here's the creative, which is a birthday card. Here's another one that's a little niche, but it's may get the wheels spinning. And this is a letter that we send for people who are in foreclosure or people who have been civilly sued. Good or bad or indifferent, all of that is public data. So if you're for example, in this example, if you're a bankruptcy attorney, we can get a list of people who are in pre-foreclosure, people who have been civilly sued because they didn't pay their credit card bill or they're not paying their medical bills, whatever that may be. And like I said, good, bad, or indifferent, that's a perfect audience for a bankruptcy attorney. Now, we could go get a list of people of a certain demographic in a certain area and mail a whole bunch of letters, but we don't know that they necessarily have any issue or need that a bankruptcy attorney could solve. In this case, we know that they have a pretty darn acute problem going on right now that they could very likely use some attorney feedback on. And here's one last consumer example. This is my client, Sam Milligan. He's from Call the Cousins Construction. And one of their niches is the big backyard expansion remodels, right? So pergolas and decks and patios and outdoor kitchens and things like that. So they do this really two different ways. One of the first things they do is, let's say they get a new client in an area for one of these backyard remodels. They'll drop a pin on that new client and we'll draw a radius around it, right? Because, homeowners that are going to have a thing like this are going to be near other homeowners who can and are willing to afford this kind of stuff. So we drop a pin on that new homeowner, we draw a radius around it, and then we send them these white gloves in the mail. So again, it's a very targeted mail piece based on where he is currently working. So it's not so much a life event as we are taking advantage of the clients we already have and mining those areas. All right, now let's talk about B2B marketing, business to business. This is where I spend most of my time as a business owner. We do a ton of work marketing to consumers on behalf of our clients, but I'm always targeting business owners. And I like to call this big game hunting. And this is what we call the Dream 100 campaign. I was teaching this long before I heard that term, but it comes from the late Chet Holmes and his awesome book, The Ultimate Sales Machine, where he talks about this in detail. He has this strategy called the Dream 100 campaign. And the tactic is to get a list of your 100 best prospects and send them fun, unique, and memorable direct mail pieces. My advice for you is to find an affinity group or an association and live in their world for 4 to 6 months. Now, the number 100 is almost irrelevant. It could be a dream 10, a dream 20, it could be a dream 20,000. I don't care what it is, but you want to pick an affinity group or an association for your dream 100 and live in their world. This allows you to narrow your universe. That's what we're looking to do. We don't want everybody to be our client. We want our clients to be our perfect prospect. So here's Michael Wynn. He owns an advertising agency, and his agency works with small banks and credit unions. He's not marketing to Bank of America or Chase Financial. These are mainly small banks and credit unions in Texas. That's the world he lives in. And we sent out bank bags. We sent out silver platters. We sent them letters in the 9x12 version of our express envelopes. We sent them his book, and we lived in their world for about 4 months. And here's how we did it. One, he became a title sponsor of the North Texas Credit Union Association. He became a member and started to sponsor events. This is now where everything works together. He has his Dream 100 list, and initially that was 150 prospects. Again, 100 is inconsequential. So the first thing you do is you create your Dream 100 calendar. We did this every month for 4 months. Every month, a direct mail piece went out. So Mike had these 150 prospects in the Credit Union Association that he wanted to target. He created his Dream 100 calendar, and we helped him create this. We knew we were going to mail every month for 4 straight months. Then you need to choose the mailers you're going to send out. Remember, you want to stand out. You want to send things that can't be ignored. These are your Dream 100 clients. What would you do to get in front of your Dream 100? How could you get in front of them? What would you do? What would you send? Then you create your sales letters. You'll mail your Dream 100. And here's where the great part about this comes in. You conduct your Dream 100 follow-up calls and digital touch points. He had their phone numbers. He had their email addresses. And in many cases, he was linked to them within LinkedIn. So he was able to send these to his Dream 100 people, and then his sales team would follow up with a phone call, and then they would follow up with emails and LinkedIn messages. And so now you're hitting them from all corners. And this is one of those things where the direct mail lifts up the phone calls, which lift up the emails, which lift up the LinkedIn messages. Here's a quote from Mike. Within the first month and just one mailing, we had set 4 appointments. And after setting 2 appointments on the same day, he told me, I went home and had a glass of champagne. We've never booked 2 in the same day. His sales usually fall in the 5-figure and up range, with some clients worth several $100,000 over time. He doesn't need big numbers. The small numbers work just fine. And here's another idea of big game hunting with the Dream 100 strategy. It comes from Tim Mitchum of Wexford and James in West Des Moines, Iowa. And he's in the receivables management business. And if you don't know what that is, he's a bill collector. So when you can't collect your bills, you send Tim to go get it. So here's what he did. He targeted just 30 cosmetology schools in Iowa and 3 surrounding states. Just 30. It doesn't need to be 100. It doesn't need to be 1,000. It was just 30. And he had a 3,300% return on his investment within 3 months. So if you're doing the math with me here, he spent $300 on 30 clients. That's $10 per mail piece. Some of you may be thinking, oh my goodness, I could never spend $10 per mail piece. I'd go broke. But if you're only targeting 30, he only needs 1 good client to pay for this. And what's great about this is within 3 months, he had a 3,300% return. And as long as he keeps them happy, and as long as they keep coming back to him, that number will only continue to go up. So he sent them a letter with a little foot inside and the headline, How to Recover More Past Student Tuition While Maintaining Your School's Good Name. I'm guessing you probably don't receive little squishy feet in the mail very often. Well, let me explain. So if you can picture this, that little foot is about the size of a small cup of coffee. It's a foam stress reliever. Those of you who have sales team or want to get in front of a big decision maker, You would love to send this. Now, this isn't the only thing we sent. We didn't just send one letter and a foot. We sent testimonials, we sent an FAQ sheet, and other marketing material. This is a very cool piece. And if you need to get your foot in the door, this is the way to do it. Again, we could target JV partners, your ideal clients, your referral partners, things like that. All right, let's move on. Did you know that you can automate your lead follow up with direct mail? Your lead generation advertising is only as good as your lead follow up. Everyone knows about email autoresponders, where you schedule emails to go out at a predetermined time so that every lead you attract goes through the same series of emails. Most people don't realize that you can also do this with direct mail, a direct mail autoresponder to plug the holes in your marketing funnel. Here's an example from Andres Mejer, a great client of ours. He's an immigration attorney, and it should be no surprise that it's hard to get a list of people who need immigration help. I mean, that's not a list that I know exists. It may be possible, but I haven't seen it. What Andres does is all of his marketing starts with get my free book. Do you qualify for legal US status? He does this with online ads, offline ads, all kinds of stuff. And he says, if you're interested in this, get my book, and they raise their hand. So now we've got to two-step this thing. We did the ad to get the lead because we can't go out and buy a list of these people. So we need to organically create our own list. And now you can start sending follow-up pieces. So we first send the book, and then we send a letter with a little magnifying glass attached to the letter. You might be wondering why I included a magnifying glass with this letter. I did this for two important reasons. Again, we use the magnifying glass to ensure that the letter gets open. That's all we want to do. We want to get it opened and read. And then the next time we send a little pill bottle. Your prescription to avoid deportation is here. You've got to have the letter match the thing that you're sending, right? So we can't just send the pill bottle and then not explain the pill bottle. And really, what it comes down to is you want to send mail that you can't ignore. Imagine getting this in your mailbox. Of course, you're going to open it. We then send what's called the 10 myths of immigration, and we send that in a 9x12 version of our express mail envelope I showed you earlier. And you can automate all of this. You don't have to do any of this. We can help you with all that stuff. Here's another example. This is a bankruptcy attorney, Christine Kingston, and her book, 5 Steps to Financial Freedom. And if you'll notice again, this all looks very familiar. You might be wondering why I included a magnifying glass with this letter. Your prescription for a brighter financial future. And finally, the 10 myths of filing bankruptcy in the express mail envelope. We're not recreating the wheel, and you shouldn't either. Here's another advertising agency that we work with, Matt Beatram. He owns eWeb Solutions. And as the name implies, they're an online marketing agency. Almost all of their point of contact starts with getting his book, Build Your Brand Mania. Almost everything starts with that book. Again, very similar to our immigration and bankruptcy attorneys. He does Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, all kinds of ads specifically to get the book. Well, now what happens? Again, we're not creating the wheel. So the book goes out, and then a week later, we send them a letter inside of a bank bag. We would actually put the letter in this bank bag, zip it shut, put the label on it, and mail it to them. And now the bank bag shows up in their mailbox. Imagine the impression that that's going to get. And then we send a 9x12 envelope. And then the final step is our mini trash can. I love this one. Since you threw away my last 2 letters, I thought I would save you the trouble. And guess what we do? We actually crumple it up, put the letter inside the trash can. We put the lid on. We put a little bit of packaging tape on the top of the lid, and we put a mailing label. We put a mailing label on the trash can, and we mail that thing out. So the bank bag, the express envelope, the trash can, they all show up as is in their mailbox. Imagine what the impact is going to be when they see that, when that shows up in their mailbox. All of these things guarantee your mail is going to get open, and that's what we want to do. And again, you shouldn't be doing this. If you're using any kind of CRM, you can automate this. You can get this off your plate over to somebody like me, and we can be your direct mail auto fulfillment team. So let's talk one last one here. Lost clients. Everybody has lost clients. And frankly, too many businesses focus all their marketing efforts and budget on attracting new customers. Most businesses fail miserably to market to the large proven group of people who have already purchased goods and services from them. We talked about replenishing lists. Every month, you can rinse, wash, and repeat a lost client campaign with predictable results. Nothing is more replenishable than your own client list of people who have given you money and have fallen off the wagon. I have two examples here. First, an auto repair shop, Central Avenue Automotive and Blake Walker. He was my mechanic until I moved out of the area. I was taking my car there and he asked me what I did for a living. And I told him, and he said, "That sounds interesting. Let's give it a whirl." And so he had a list of 1,800 clients who were inactive and they weren't in the shop from between 1 and 3 years. Most people need to bring their car in 2 to 3 times a year for maintenance and upkeep and oil changes and things like that. Obviously, depends on how much you drive, of course, but these were clients who were not in for 1 to 3 years. And here's what's really cool is we included this little boomerang with the headline, "Travis, we want you back." It's John and Jason over at Central Automotive. We were reviewing our records and we found that you hadn't been in since January of 2015. We sent this in a number 12 envelope with the boomerang inside. Here's the offer. It should look pretty darn familiar to the new mover offer that we showed you at the very beginning. Again, we're not recreating the wheels. We're finding offers that we know work and finding a list that we can mail. And here were the results. We mailed 1,881 letters, total cost of about $2,100. He reactivated 51 clients. So this is like finding new clients all over again. The total revenue was $24,275 on the first visit back. I think we can assume that some of these 51 are going to be coming back regularly now. The average transaction was $475. So if you notice, my offer was a free oil change and then some money off if they needed more than just an oil change. So we started with the free oil change and it ended up with an average transaction of almost $500. I'd say that's pretty good. His return was 11-1. All right, so here's our bill collector again, Tim Mitchum, another great example for our B2B clients. Again, you've got people who have hired you and for whatever reason haven't hired you back. Again, this should look familiar. We're not recreating the wheel. We have a headline, "We really want you back," and we send them a boomerang. This is a very simple one-page letter. Our records indicate it's been too long since we heard from you, and we're giving you a flat 10% collection rate to re-engage them. If I were to show you the last two letters side by side, there's not a whole lot of difference between them. So here's what Tim had to say. "Hey, Travis, just thought I'd quickly share with you some of the results from the boomerang mailer. So far, it has returned 1,200%, and I expect that to grow a little bit more. We'll have to do another mailing of some kind to the same list." I agree, Tim. So at this point, you have two options. You can take what you've learned here, implement it on your own, and start testing ideas. And for some businesses, that's the right path. But if you'd like help building this the right way with a clear strategy, the right messaging, and a system designed to produce predictable results, I'd be happy to help. I offer what I call a direct mail automation strategy session. This is a one-on-one conversation where we look at your business, your market, your current advertising, and we map out how an automated direct mail system could generate leads, reactivate past clients, convert those leads into customers, and create consistent revenue. We can help with everything from targeting and list strategy to copywriting and creative to printing and mailing and the ongoing fulfillment. In other words, we can help you build and implement the entire system. Now, this isn't for everybody. I work best with established businesses that are already serving customers and want to grow faster and more predictably. If you're just starting out, still testing ideas, or looking for DIY shortcuts, this probably isn't the right fit. But if you have a solid business, a good reputation, and you're ready to build a smarter, more reliable marketing system, you can apply for a session using the link on this page. To reserve your time, there is a $250 deposit required to reserve your spot. This simply ensures we're speaking with serious business owners and protects the time that we set aside for you. Tara from my office will call you within 48 business hours to schedule your conversation. If we decide it's not a fit to work together, we'll part ways as friends and your $250 will be refunded immediately. And if we do move forward, that $250 is fully credited towards your first project. We schedule these sessions in the order applications are received. So the sooner you apply, the sooner you can get on our calendar. If you'd like clarity, direction, and a system built to produce real results, click the link below and apply. If you're ready for your marketing to feel more predictable, more consistent, and far less stressful, I'd be honored to help you build your system. Click below to get started.